All right, everyone, we start off the day with good news, actually. A Pakistan-India ceasefire has been announced. Now, how tenuous this is, of course, is up to interpretation. We've seen a number of ceasefires before that kind of fall through after time. Um, Overall, in the end, India and Pakistan will probably come to blows again. This has happened a number of times. The latest attacks, though, by both countries have been relatively larger than what we've generally seen before. Generally speaking, what we see is a skirmish along a border station, and sometimes people beat each other up or fire a couple of warning shots or something like that. We usually don't get the missiles and jets sort of thing and the shelling sort of thing. This is a little bit different than other encounters that we've seen between Pakistan and India. And in the long term, as I've said, you could have a very, very strange geopolitical situation where China ends up siding with India because they're in BRICS, or sides with Pakistan despite being funded by the United States, and the United States then has to choose a side as well. And Russia, of course, immediately got involved and said, basically cut it out. This is unhelpful for two atomic powers to go toe to toe on an escalated level. We've had international involvement before with India and Pakistan over the Kashmiri region, which China claims part of as well, by the way, over even little incursions. Again, basic bitch border disputes. This is more than a basic border dispute. There was a massive terrorist attack in India. India responded by firing missiles and flying sorties. Pakistan responded by shelling and doing their own thing. And so it's a little bit more concerning than other, excursions that we've seen in the past overall. The Kashmiri region is a flashpoint. It's a flashpoint because the British never really fully decided who was going to control it. It was sort of left up to international decision more than anything else. Problem is that India is majority Hindu with a Muslim minority. Pakistan is majority Muslim with a Hindu minority. This has led to problems before, and then, of course, with China, of course, claiming part of the Kashmiri province as well and administrating it, that becomes an issue as well. So what happens is that once in a while, somebody pops off, and then you end up with skirmishes, basically. Now, most of these, again, are fairly minor. It's like basically, okay, one dude got shot. Okay, that's probably not going to cause World War III. When you get to the point where you're firing missiles and shelling people, that becomes a little bit more now, doesn't it? And with a trilateral sort of coalition managing the general area, and with the borders not technically speaking being figured out at all, it becomes more of an issue and could definitely, yes, lead to World War III. If China were to get involved, for example, let's say that India and Pakistan, they pop off, but China also gets involved, you can have 1 billion people dead, effectively, easily. It wouldn't be difficult. Unfortunately, over the long term of time, while each individual encounter is unlikely, thankfully this one doesn't appear to have led to this, while each individual encounter is unlikely to lead to, that kind of combat, atomic combat, so to speak, nuclear combat. Over time, unfortunately, eventually, it is an eventuality. Well, this becomes a little bit of a problem now, doesn't it? Because the problem is that other countries in the world have invested heavily in these countries. They have made ties with these countries. For instance, the United States funds Pakistan, which I don't agree with, but it does. At the same time, trying to diplomatically draw India away from BRICS. China's in BRICS, so they're tied to India mainly. They're also doing the Silk Road thing. That involves Pakistan as well. Russia has skin in the game because it's getting a bunch of resources from the subcontinent. They're tied with both nations as well. All of the major players in the world can't quit Pakistan and India. And so, yeah, if they pop off, that causes a spiraling collapse that probably kills even more people because of the lack of resources that would be able to be extracted from both nations. I realize that this may sound exploitative in nature, but that's not really what it's about. It's about friendship and partnership. The problem is that India and Pakistan don't get along very well with one another. You have a majority Hindu nation with a Muslim minority, and a majority Muslim nation with a Hindu minority. And the hardliners in both countries don't really like the minority that happens to be there, or the other country for that matter. This becomes very, very difficult diplomatically and for obvious reasons. And so it's a big issue. It's probably the biggest geopolitical issue, actually, when you think about it, that currently plagues us. Let's say that things in Korea pop off. That would be bad. You would have a kimchi shortage and so forth. It would be bad. Millions and millions of people would die, and it doesn't really matter who wins because everyone loses anyway in the end anyway. With India and Pakistan, you're talking about well over 1 billion people with an enormous amount of resources, with an enormous amount of foreign investment, both from the East and the West, by the way. And so nobody really wants to see them go into a nuclear war. Nobody really wants to see that, unless they're insane. And there are some people out there that certainly are. It would be very, very beneficial to the world, therefore, for diplomacy to break out. I'm glad that a peace, well, a ceasefire at least, has been, announced. The Trump administration came out and acknowledged that earlier today. That's very, very good. His first major diplomatic test, coming out and saying India and Pakistan have decided not to continue bombing one another. Wonderful. That's absolutely great. I could use some Indian and Pakistani food tonight, I suppose, actually. Maybe I'll get some. There is Masala Corner, after all. That's about all. Peace out.